get any more chairs. I think we ran out.
I wanted to thank you all for coming this afternoon to our plant-based nutrition group talk. I'm sure you'll be happy you took a couple hours out of your afternoon to hear Dr. Crawford. Dr. Crawford is a board-certified physician who promotes plant-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine. He retired from full-time clinical practice in 2020, but still works 1 day a week serving as the medical director for the Pinal County Jail Clinic in Florence. He was born, raised, and educated in Iowa, obtaining his bachelor's degree at Drake University and graduating medical school from the Des Moines University College of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery. He performed his postdoctorate residency training in the U.S. Air Force and moved to Arizona in 1988. Dr. Crawford and his wife Barbie adopted a plant-based lifestyle over 12 years ago. He suffered from severe chronic medical issues himself, including hypertension, hyperlipidemia, reflux disease, and a weight problem. Within 6 months of adopting a plant-based diet, he had lost over 30 pounds and was able to discontinue the 4 prescription medications he was taking. Having experienced the many positive benefits to his own health, he began promoting and advocating this way of nutrition to his patients. Those that followed his lead were able to improve and even reverse such chronic diseases as high blood pressure, diabetes, and coronary disease. He has presented to many groups and conferences throughout the country, often bringing patients of his along to share their testimonials. He was featured in the highly acclaimed documentary, Eating You Alive. As Dr. Crawford puts it, quote, "The most potent medicine comes not from a pill, but from what's at the end of a fork." Please welcome Dr. Crawford. After the talk, there'll be time for questions and answers.
First of all, everybody hear me okay? Yeah. All right, okay, cool. Yeah, I've been in medical practice in this area in Pima County for the last 34 years. And born, raised, and educated in Iowa, and I never went back. Don't want to go back. I mean, I went back to visit, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't want to live there anymore. I just love it out here. I love the desert, love the mountains, the scenery, the climate, the people. My wife and I got into pickleball a couple years ago, and we're kind of addicted to that too. So I tweaked my back yesterday. I don't know what the heck I did. I could barely walk this morning. We were supposed to play pickleball this morning, and I had to cancel because I could barely walk. So at least I'm able to walk now with the help of a couple pills. And so I brought a little stool along just in case I have to sit down. So I recognize some faces in this audience, some ex-patients and friends and acquaintances. I've given talks out here before and always enjoy coming here. One of my favorite places to come. In fact, the last presentation I gave was here 4 years ago. A little over 4 years ago. So I hope I still have it in me to do this. It's been a while. So if I'm a little rusty, you'll probably understand, hopefully. We'll do a raffle. We usually come to these talks and I bring some books to raffle off. We'll do that in the end. If we didn't have enough handouts, I can always bring some up, drop them off. I also have kind of a part 2. It's kind of a new talk that I've been working on about longevity and the research behind it and what the recommendations are now. Kind of hits home, I think, with our age group. So I think you may be interested in that, but we'll maybe wait until after the summer's over. We'll do that, if you still want me back. All righty? So let's get this show on the road. So do a little intro on our healthcare system, tell you about my story in a nutshell, discuss a few of our most common chronic diseases, and how it's related to our lifestyle choices we make. Talk a little bit about animal-based eating for Americans, which we're all familiar with. And a better approach, I think, to nutrition for everyone in this country. And it's eating basically a plant-based way of nutrition. And how you can reverse disease with this type of eating. The best satisfaction I ever got from practicing medicine in my own practice or seeing patients elsewhere is actually having patients get off of their medications rather than put people on medications. Our training in America dealt with basically treating the symptoms of poor lifestyle choices, okay, and the outcomes of that. And so we were taught which medications to give in certain diseases, whether there's high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol or gastroesophageal reflux disease. And that's what our training was based on, was treating these chronic diseases with pills, procedures, and surgery. And then at the end, I was told to address protein a little bit, because that's a big concern of a lot of people. When in fact, if you're going to eat the way I'm going to recommend, it's not a concern at all. It really isn't. And then we'll have the raffle for some books and a Q&A session. So why are we all here? Well, we all, especially at our age, we want to continue to be as healthy for as long as we can. We want to live a long life, but more importantly, we want those years of our lives to be healthy. We want to remain functional. We want to be able to fend for ourselves, feed ourselves, bathe ourselves, and do everything, where we can live independently if we have to. And if you're diagnosed a disease, this is one of the big drawbacks to our medical system now is usually you'll get diagnosed with a problem, say esophageal reflux disease, heartburn, the GERD that's so common in our country. And you'll get prescribed a medication. But usually there's no other recommendations beyond that. Because there are other ways than just taking pills to actually get to the root of that problem and get rid of it. And we should all have all the options available to us. Even if we don't want to heed the advice, we should at least know about other options to treatment. Great?
Yes.
And we all want to learn all we can to accomplish this. The American healthcare system is basically a sick care system designed to treat, like I said, the outcomes of our crappy lifestyle habits. That's it. And we're treating the symptoms, we're not treating the cause or the root problem that got us into those diseases in the first place. And it's okay to doubt what you've been taught to believe. I think we're all brought up, as children in our cultures, and we're learned to eat one thing and to practice, different ways of living, And those may not have been the most ideal ways of doing it. I know in my case it wasn't. The most dangerous phrase in the language is, we're always done it this way. And that's true. And just because you always done it that way doesn't mean that's the right way to do it. This is where I was brought up. My father owned a livestock hauling business in central Iowa, a little north of Des Moines, the capital. And he hauled livestock, cattle and hogs, to the slaughterhouses in Chicago and Omaha. That's what he did. And I was brought up in this. And that's the only life I knew at the time. And we had meat on the table, of course, every day. We drank our whole milk. You know, not the 2% stuff or that skim stuff. We drank whole milk. With all the fat and everything in it. So this is what I was brought up to be in this. So I always tell patients, if I was able to convert to what I do now as far as eating, anybody can do it. Because man, I love my dairy, cheese, prime rib. I mean, I love that stuff. Just eat it all the time. This is that guy 12 years ago, a month before I started eating a plant-based diet. I was on 2 blood pressure medications at their highest dose. I was on Lipitor, which is a cholesterol-lowering medication, and had horrible heartburn, horrible reflux disease. Took Zantac, I think it was, at the time, and then until omeprazole came out, and then started taking that. But I mean, a lot of times I'd be carrying Tums in my pocket as well, because I'd have to pop a couple after a meal. It was so bad. And it was all due to what I was eating, basically. And I thought I was healthy. We didn't eat, at this point in time, my wife and I didn't eat that much beef or pork. We were eating chicken and fish, which we all think are healthy. And you're going to learn something different. But anyway, I have the bad genetics too on board. Both my parents had heart disease. My father died at the age of 69 over his plate of bacon and eggs in Iowa. They actually revived him, the paramedics revived him, but they broke a lot of ribs in doing CPR, and shocked him back, but then he never regained consciousness. He was on a ventilator until his wife decided to pull the plug on that, which was a blessing, actually. My mom had quadruple bypass surgery. Okay? So I didn't have the genes on my side. So, and I was a physician, and and I knew it was just a matter of time before I had my episode. It was. But it was lucky in 2011 because there was an important film that came out called Forks Over Knives. And we just happened to be watching a talk show one night, and Dr. Colin Campbell was on there. They were interviewing him because he was plugging Forks Over Knives, and we were listening to it. I said, God, I said, we gotta go see this. So we did. It was playing at the Law Theater in Tucson, and we went and saw it. And we were so impressed, we came out of the theater and we said, let's try this. Let's do it. So we did. I mean, we dove in head first, went home, cleaned out the fridge, the freezers. God, we did it. It's so much easier doing it nowadays than 12 years ago because they didn't have all the options they have now, for plant-based nutrition. And then this was the other barrier. I didn't know anything about it, really. It says I spent years studying nutrition in med school. It said no medical doctor ever, and that's true. We didn't get any nutrition training in medical school back then. That's changed a little bit now, thank goodness. But back then, we didn't know any more nutrition than Joe, the mechanic, down on the corner that you take your car to. They always say, well, ask your doctor before you make any changes in your diet. Really? I always kind of grimace at that statement because most doctors, that's changing. I think a lot of the younger ones coming out know a lot more. But everything I learned on my own by reading books, watching documentaries, going to conferences. And this was when, if you've never seen, has everybody seen Forks Over Knives? Okay. I would say, who hasn't, but I won't. This is actually a page out of the Tucson paper. They had a conference. There used to be a group, or it was actually one lady that was behind all this. It's called Healthy U Network, and she brought in national speakers from all over. Dr. Neil Bernard, Colin Campbell, Dr. Esselstyn, Michael Greger, to come in and give talks on the weekend at conferences. And she found out that this gal found out that I went plant-based and was interested in perhaps giving some presentations on plant-based nutrition. So I was at a couple of these conferences, got to speak. But this was kind of a before and after picture of me, and then 2 years later, after I'd lost the weight, got off our medications, and it felt so much better too. God, I felt better. Eating You Alive, they asked me to be a part of this documentary, which I did. Everybody seen Eating You Alive? Anybody not seen it? Okay. It's on YouTube now. It's free. You can go on YouTube and search for it, and the whole movie's on there. So, watch Eating You Alive. I'm in that one. Let's see, James Cameron's in there, Samuel L. Jackson's in that, Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller. Very well done. Very well done. People are fed by the food industry, which pay no attention to health, and are treated by the health industry, which pays no attention to food. That's true. Very true. I'm sure you remember these types of ads, 2 better burgers are better than one. I mean, our country not just served up some of the most disease-causing meals, but then they enlarged all of them, supersized them. Okay? There was even a documentary called Supersize Me. But this is the type of advertisement that's still out there, actually. So we have a health crisis. 86% of the $3 trillion, it's like 3.3 trillion we spend on healthcare costs, are due to chronic diseases, like diabetes, heart disease, okay? And these are preventable diseases. Smoking used to be the most modifiable risk factor, but now it's food. Food overtook that. Most of them are prevented, can be prevented, or even reversed by changing diet and lifestyle. The CDC says that over 75% of all healthcare costs are preventable. So it's huge. And we as physicians in our training, we never learned this. We didn't learn this. It was all about treating and prescribing. And we used to get a lot of perks in med school. We'd get a lot of free things. We'd get lab coats, we would get pens, we'd get stethoscopes given to us free from drug companies. Okay? And they can't do that anymore. But we used to. The majority of our most debilitating, deadly chronic diseases are self-inflicted, but we have the power to reverse and heal on our own. So you have to ask yourself the question, are you healing yourself long-term, or are you just covering up the symptoms? Top 10 causes of death in the United States. I don't need to go through each one. You can kind of see these. Heart disease, still number one, both males and females. Heart disease kills more women than all the cancers put together, than all the cancer causes. Huge, huge problem, still is. And it's preventable. It's preventable. Cancer is number two, emphysema is number three, then stroke. Alzheimer's is sixth, and still climbing. Suicide number 10. Heart disease stats. Heart disease kills 4 times as many American women each year than breast cancer. Kills nearly twice as many American women each year as all forms of cancer combined. For 300,000 people each year, the first and only symptom of heart disease is sudden death. So about a third of all the heart attacks that hit, that's first and only, first and last. You just fall over dead. Happens a lot. Now, I always read the obituaries. I'm kind of morbid, I guess. So I read the obituaries every day, mainly to see if any of my ex-patients are passed on. I'm always curious because you always see the ones in there, and there's one about every day that died unexpectedly at age 42, or age 48 or 50, and pretty much, that equates with a sudden heart attack. In most cases. 80% of the human race have cholesterol level. Look at this. 80% of the human race on the planet have cholesterol levels below 150 and will never have a heart attack. That's the majority of the people. Okay? It's a lot different here. The largest study ever done, still ongoing, is the Framingham Heart Study. It's been going on for over 50 years. And they follow the cholesterol levels and smoking habits, medications, lifestyle, diet. The one thing they follow is cholesterol. They've never had a person in their study, and this is thousands and thousands of people, that have ever had a heart attack with a cholesterol level below 150. Doesn't happen. It's kind of an interesting little tidbit. Atherosclerosis is not stopped by following the American Heart Association guidelines of 30% dietary fat and 300 milligrams of cholesterol and 4 eggs per week. That won't do it. It's not good enough. A lot of you have probably seen this. This is out of Forks Over Knives documentary. And this is actually a surgeon that was in that film. Who was having bad angina pain, chest pain. They did a angiogram and they saw, this is on the left, you see how diseased that left anterior descending coronary artery is, barely getting blood through the artery. This is called the Widowmaker artery that you've heard of in the heart. He elected to go to a strict. He was a Cleveland Clinic physician, and he contacted Dr. Esselstyn, who works at the Cleveland Clinic at the time. And Dr. Esselstyn said, you don't have to do the bypass surgery if you want to stick to a regimented plant-based diet. And he did. In 2 years, I'll get it, later, they repeated it. And that's it on the right. Completely clean. It shows you it can be reversed. It's amazing. Societies with no coronary artery disease are 90% plant-based. Some examples: Tarahumara Indians, 90% of the calories of corn and beans. Their average cholesterol is 125. They never have heart attacks. Rural China, not China, not the cities, because they've been infiltrated with the McDonald's and Burger Kings and Kentucky Fried Chickens. So they have heart diseases now that are rivaling ours. But if you go into rural China, 90% of the calories are from soybeans, rice, and vegetables. The average cholesterol is 125. Uganda, 90% of the calories from sweet potatoes, plantains, corn, millet, vegetables, and legumes. Papua New Guinea, 90% of the calories from sweet potatoes and vegetables. Do they eat a little meat? Yeah, very little. I mean, one of the main reasons is not easily gotten. But, this just shows. You just look at places, populations around the world that don't eat the types of diet we eat, and they don't have the diseases that we have. Cancer stats. 1 in 3 Americans will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetimes. Pesticides and dioxins promote cancer and can be found in every one of our fat cells. Okay. Americans consume about 150 micrograms of pesticides daily, and animal products account for 90 to 95%. So you're not just getting, when you buy that steak in the supermarket, or ground up beef, you're not just getting the fat, the cholesterol, and the bad animal proteins. You're getting, the pesticides, the antibiotics, the hormones that they feed them. Getting all this stuff. It all makes a difference. So as Americans, we consider all these diseases as part of life, part of the aging process. The fact is most cancers and heart disease can be prevented with nutrition alone. And, it's sad when people, our age hear this for the first time and say, why wasn't I told about this? When I was 30 years old. Yeah, really. Diabetes, huge problem. 2,200 patients per day are diagnosed. It's probably higher than that. This is throughout the country. 521 patients die per day. 152 patients per day have amputations. 76 per day, and this is probably a lot higher, start dialysis. 49 per day go blind. Leading cause of blindness in the United States is diabetes. In the world, actually, is diabetes. Diabetes and obesity go hand in hand. They both go up linearly and they continue. This is a very old slide, but it's still going up. Obesity is the number 1 risk factor for diabetes. So what's an unhealthy diet according to the World Health Organization? It's one that's based on processed foods with added fat, sugar, and salt, and animal products rich in saturated fats. It's low in vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and other high fiber foods. Most of us give no thoughts to what we're putting in our bodies. We get it and we eat it. We're not giving it any thought at all. You buy that pack, and I went through this too. Buy that packaged steak, you get in the supermarket, and you don't have any idea what's behind that, how much water was behind that to produce it. How many chemicals that were feeding that animal. Hormones, added hormones, antibiotics, which are number 1 user of antibiotics is livestock in our country, by far. And we don't give it any thought. So for us to move forward, we have to rid ourselves of 2 myths, which are so pervasive. One is the belief that eating animals and dairy is a necessity for good health, when in fact it's quite the opposite. And we were all brought up with this. It was pushed into us, through advertising and huge amounts of misinformation from the media. And number 2, that the diseases we acquire, such as heart disease and cancer, are just part of life and inevitable. When in reality, most of these diseases are created by ourselves and are entirely preventable. The healthiest foods do not contain nutritional labels. Pharmaceutical company does not, or industry does not create cures, they create customers. And that's such a profound statement, because you think of all the different medications out there, how many actually cure disease? Few exceptions. There's a few, but not many. I mean, most of them are just tapping down the symptoms of that. Whether it's your blood pressure, the pills that are lowering it, are they curing it? No, they're not curing it. Same with cholesterol lowering medications. You're not curing anything. You're just kind of taking it down to lower levels, so hopefully you won't suffer the bad consequences of having these be high. So it's better to treat the root cause of a problem than just treat the outcome or the symptoms of it, right? Okay. Is meat killing us? Yeah, that's part of it. The Mayo Clinic in 2016 performed a review of 6 studies totaling 3 million participants. They found strong and consistent evidence. Increased intake of red meat, especially processed red meat, like bologna, bacon, ham, sausage, is associated with increased all-cause mortality. Vegan diet improves several parameters of health, including reversal of cardiovascular disease, decreased BMI, which is body mass index, decreased risk of diabetes, and decreased blood pressure. Chicken, you know, that white meat, which is supposed to be healthy. Nearly half of the chicken products marketed by national brands and sold in supermarkets are contaminated with feces, according to a new PCRM report. Now that happens when they're slaughtering chickens. They decapitate them and then they open them and gut them, and this is all happens so fast that all their innards get splashed all over the place. Contamination occurs. USDA study found that 87% of chicken carcasses, and that's a lot, tested positive for E. coli, which is a disease-causing bacteria that's found in the colons of just about every mammal, including us. And that's after chilling and just prior to packaging. Each year, contaminated poultry products cause approximately 1.5 million illnesses, 12,000 hospitalizations, and 180 deaths, just from the contamination. 5 worst contaminants in chicken products: feces, as we mentioned, toxic chemicals, superbugs. There's so many antibiotics fed to animals like chickens and beef and pork that these bugs become resistant to the antibiotics. Okay? It gets harder and harder to find antibiotics that actually work. You've probably heard about this problem. And it's a scary, scary prospect. Carcinogen, arsenic in chicken, which is pretty common, can lead to an increase of lung and bladder cancer deaths, among other things. Cholesterol. 4 ounces of beef and 4 ounces of chicken contain approximately the same amount of cholesterol, which is about 100 milligrams. So they're pretty equal. Fish, that's healthy, right? No other food presents a more broad range of contamination. But why is that? Anybody venture a guess? Farm raised, probably 98% of the fish you buy in the supermarket is from fish farms, which are putrid what they feed them. I mean, they feed them chopped up byproducts from the big fishing, the commercial fishing nets bring in, all the little, fish, turtles, mollusks, and they grind that stuff up, feed them to the fish farm, the fish in the fish farms, and it's just it's not good. It's very dirty, filthy. They may be contaminated with industrial chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals, and coliform bacteria. Coliform bacteria are bacteria from sewage, Salmonella, E. coli, Shigella. Most PCBs, which are carcinogenic, this is a chemical which is found out in our environment from industrial waste, things of that sort. Most of the fish you eat today from fish farms and milk is not much better. Breast cancer incidence worldwide. North America leads the way by far. Okay? And a lot of, just like everything else, it's because of the diet we eat. Milk has a lot of the ingredients that can cause cancer. Prostate cancer, same thing. 2 Harvard studies, one group of 20,000 men showed that those having 2.5 servings of dairy product had about a 34% increased risk of prostate cancer. Separate study of 40,000 showed that those having 2 or more milk servings had a 60% increased risk of prostate cancers. So, and a lot of this is the type of protein found in meat and dairy. Casein is found in dairy products. 80% of the protein found in milk is casein. Dr. Colin Campbell, if you remember this from Forks Over Knives, said this is the most relevant cancer promoter ever found, and the biggest one in the American diet. The truth about osteoporosis, this is, I just shook my head when, women used to come into my office with it, and they'd be on all these medications, calcium supplements. And it's a disease where Americans have been and continue to be the most misled. Some of you probably think, this guy don't know what he's talking about. But it's true. Osteoporosis is not due to a lack of calcium. Calcium has very little impact on osteoporosis. It's certainly not the cause. We get plenty of calcium in our diet. Plenty. Even if you don't drink or eat dairy at all. Actually, the best source of calcium is from leafy greens. It's the best. And all the plant-based milks now have it, almond milk, soy milk, cashew, all of those, they're fortified with vitamin D and calcium now. Best, most usable source of calcium comes from plant sources. And osteoporosis is a disease of, anybody know this?
Age.
What?
Age.
Well, that's a big one. That's a big risk factor. Too much animal protein. Okay? Animal protein is made up of amino acids that are acidic, like methionine. These amino acids get broken down from the breakdown of protein from animal products and get circulated in the bloodstream, and they cause your pH to go down. The pH in the bloodstream goes down, and in your cells goes down. It's acidic. So your body's response is to raise that pH. So the way it does it is to draw out, electrolytes from your bones, like calcium, to offset the pH or to bring it up. So your body's not, it's not good when your blood is too acidic. Dairy is the #1 source of saturated fat in the American diet. For example, most cheeses are 70% fat. The biggest thing I heard from patients when transitioning to a plant-based diet, the hardest thing to come off of was cheese. Cheese. Yeah. I mean, one, it tastes good. Two, there's compounds in cheese which have opiate-like consequences. Caseomorphin, that's a compound in cheese which makes you want more, causes an addiction actually. It's put there for a purpose, for babies, for infants, because you want them to keep coming back and getting more milk for nutrition. But it doesn't work great when adults want to eat more of it. Some little tidbits. 1 cc, 1 ml, or milliliter of commercial cow's milk is allowed in this country to have up to 750,000 somatic cells, also called pus cells, and 20,000 live bacteria. That's perfectly legal. That's, they allow that. This is the primary source of bacteria found in milk. And milk's usually pasteurized, okay, more than once before it gets to you. Each time it's for about 15 seconds at 162 degrees. That doesn't kill all the bacteria. It's not enough. So keep in mind that at room temperature, the number of bacteria in milk doubles about every 20 minutes. I remember when I was a kid, and, we had the big Sunday dinners every Sunday, and we had a pitcher of milk sat on the middle of the table. And if you wanted more, you poured it like 15, 20 minutes later. We must have been, I'm probably resistant to a lot of those bacteria, I guess. We were exposed to a lot. Casein. I mentioned this before. 80% of the protein in milk is casein. It's a powerful allergen. It creates lots of mucus when you drink it. If you drink a glass of milk and you feel that little layer of film in your back of your throat, that's casein. It feels kind of, I haven't drank one for a long time, but that's what that is. It's casein. University of Illinois Medical Center in Chicago showed that increasing intakes of casein promoted the development of breast cancer. If you look at the countries that eat the most dairy, their breast cancer rates are the highest. And their prostate cancer rates are the highest. A lot of the, like Denmark, Sweden, they eat a lot of protein too, and their cancer rates are up as well. Cancer fuel, powerful, another hormone found in milk is growth factor 1, IGF-1. You might have heard of this before. It's a very powerful hormone that's found in all mammals' milk. It can be, human milk, cow's milk, gorilla milk, javelina milk. It's in all of it. But they're varying concentrations of it. And the concentrations found in cattle is a lot higher than what we are used to as humans. So it has one purpose, and that's to make babies grow, whether it doesn't matter which species you are. So when older children or adults continue drinking milk, this hormone becomes a fuel for cancer growth. Because what it's telling your cells to do is divide and grow. And you don't need to grow when you're 25 years old or older. It's much more concentrated in cow's milk, and remember this, each bite of cheese has 10 times whatever was in that sip of milk. And it takes about 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. So it's a lot more concentrated in cheese. Ice cream, 12 times more, butter, 21 times more. So, depressing, isn't it? Yes. My wife's a breast cancer survivor. I don't think she'll mind if I tell her or mention this. I already told her, so. How many years is it? 21 years. She was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. She went through surgery, chemo, radiation, all that wonderful stuff. And that was a big impetus for us to go plant-based as well, is to get off that stuff. She used to eat a lot of yogurt. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. All that good stuff. But it's cancer fuel, folks. Lactose intolerance, you've heard of this. About 70% of the population has some lactose intolerance. And the reason being is because we're not supposed to drink milk past infancy. We're not supposed to drink milk, especially another species milk. I mean, you look at it, at what it is, and it just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. 95% of the black population have it. 53% of the Hispanics have it. And what you're lacking is the enzyme to break that sugar down, to break the lactose down. Okay? So if you have problems with gas, heavy production, whatever it was, GERD, heartburn, irritable colon, or even constant allergy symptoms, try this. Give up all dairy products for 1 month and see what happens. I did this all the time when I was in private practice, because people would complain of bad allergies, of horrible heartburn like I used to have. And I said, just give up all dairy for 4 weeks and come back and see me. And never failed. I mean, all of them improved, if not completely resolved, by doing that. Causes so many problems. Especially reflux disease, heartburn, and big promoter of that. I warned you about the hormones and all that meat and dairy you eat. The U.S. per capita consumption of fluid cow's milk has fallen further each decade since the 1970s. It's a good thing. And I think you can all kind of predict that, the way, the almond milks and soy milk and everything that have hit the shelves. That's going a lot more. And I think the word's getting out, like what I'm telling you now. And dairy production has fallen steadily. There's plenty of milk alternatives. They're all fine. They're all good. I mean, we have almond milk most of the time. But whatever you like, there's plenty of alternatives. The only diet proven in randomized controlled trials to reverse heart disease without drugs is the whole food plant-based diet. Very low in fat and refined carbohydrates. Large, huge study, the Seventh-day Adventist Health Study. 12 years, 34,000 people. And Seventh-day Adventists are supposed to be basically vegan. They eat a vegan diet. But there's varying degrees. Some of them are more, they'll just do dairy and no meat. Some of them are on the standard American diet and they don't do any of it. They do what they want. They eat everything. So it's kind of neat. They followed, this is the Loma Linda area, and they followed it, and they found that males lived average of 14 years longer than the average American Caucasian male. Females lived 10 years longer. Women had 66% lower risk of cancer and 98% lower risk of heart disease. In men, it was 60% lower risk of cancer and 76% lower risk of heart disease. Significant. Fiber. We're fiber-eating organisms, okay? You look at our dentition, our teeth are designed for grinding, and we don't have the big canines. We're meant to eat plants. They've looked at fossilized feces from way, eons ago, and they found that, humans ate like 90% plants. You could tell by it. We do not get enough fiber in diets from the standard American diet. The average American eats, it's less than 3% of all Americans that eat enough fiber. Less than 3%. Therefore, we suffer from the consequences of this, which are entirely preventable. There's no fiber in meat or dairy. You only get fiber in plants. And the fiber content of common foods are on the left, animal sources, there's no fiber whatsoever. And there's some of the fiber found in some of the plants we eat, some of the higher ones. Most important dietary predictor of survival in older people of different ethnicities is beans, eating beans. They studied the food intake patterns of people 70 plus years, which includes a few of us. The only statistically significant food indicator of longevity was legume intake, or beans. For every 20 grams of legumes consumed, there's a 7 to 8% reduction in mortality. So eat your beans. Anybody see or read the book Blue Zones? You saw the documentary on Netflix? Yeah. Excellent if you haven't, if you get Netflix. It's great. Just a 3-part thing, but it's well worth it. All these blue zones, which are places on the planet that have the highest percentage of people that live to 100, are in these areas. One is Loma Linda, California, and they visited all these different areas and just studied the difference in diet. But in all these areas, beans was like the #1 thing that was kind of common to all 7 areas, eating beans. Very little meat. So finally, a prescription with side effects you want. No meat at all? Are you sure you're getting enough protein? You know, some of the most powerful animals on the planet, including gorillas, chimpanzees, elephants, water buffalo, all don't eat any meat. Plants have protein too. Every plant has all the amino acids in it. You know that? Piece of iceberg lettuce, which is not really that nutritious, still contains at least a fraction of all the different amino acids in it. Top 10 sources of veggie protein, the greens, spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower. I eat these every morning. This guy's nuts. I don't eat a lot, but the reason being I have an iguana and I have some tortoises. So I fix them their food every morning. So I get out the cauliflower and the greens and kale, broccoli, and I'll munch on them a little bit while I'm fixing their plates. See, this guy really is weird. Oops. So 4 ounces of ground beef versus 4 ounces of black beans. They both have 24 grams of protein. The beef has 320 calories. Black beans have 120. And then on the left, you see all these. There's no fiber. There's saturated fat, high cholesterol, high acidity. Heterocyclic amines, which are bad cancer-causing chemicals when you cook meat, either in a skillet or on a barbecue grill. That's what causes the black, is the heterocyclic amines. It's all cancer-causing. Plants, low acidity, no cholesterol, no saturated fats, 9 grams of fiber, and phytonutrients. Methionine, amino acid you want to greatly limit. I mentioned this before. The new studies, a lot of stuff coming out on this amino acid. Found primarily in animal proteins. It's the only amino acid that strongly correlates with lifespan across mammals. The more methionine in body tissues, the shorter the animal lives. The lower methionine, the longer longevity. Okay? Methionine, this is the sources, all animal products. It's found in plants, but it's at very low levels. And you'd have to eat a lot of it to get significant doses. But you look, look at the food that has the highest. Fish. Dang, that's bad news. Fish, chicken, dairy. So if it comes from an animal, don't eat it. How much protein do I need to eat per day? The recommended daily allowance for protein is modest 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day, or 50 to 60 grams per day on average. Works out to about 45 grams for a woman and 55 grams for a man. Okay? Do you have to get any of this protein from animals? No, not at all. Everybody know what nutritionfacts.org is? Website? Okay. Great, great website. You can go on there and short little videos about every little medical malady there is, or health malady, or dietary malady. Dr. Michael Greger, they've done the research, the latest research in they search all the journals, and these are fantastic. There's an excellent video on there. It's called Increasing Protein Intake After Age 65. Okay, it's about 6 minutes long. Shows you, it goes into the in-depth on this. But there's no need to really increase your protein as you get older. Do we lose muscle when we get older? Yep. You know why?
Don't use it.
Because we're not using them. We have to maintain exercise, we have to maintain lifting weights, aerobic activity, playing pickleball. Wink, wink, all you pickleball players. High protein intake and mortality. There's been studies done on this. This large NHANES study followed 6,300 participants aged 50 plus for 18 years. For people who consume greater than 20% of their calories in protein, okay? From age 50 to 65, mortality was 70% higher. Cancer deaths were 433% higher. Diabetes risk was 393% higher. So if people stopped using meat and dairy as their protein source, these associations were abolished or greatly reduced. If you eat a plant-based diet, you're not getting enough protein, you're not eating enough. You're not eating enough calories, okay? Which is possible. But if you're eating just a regular meals and snacking on heads of cauliflower, you're not gonna get all you need. Okay, so we have sick care on the left, we have health care on the right. True health care. All right? Plants, eating plants, playing pickleball. Easy fixes. People say, oh, it's expensive to eat this way. Well, it really isn't. I mean, this is, a can of beans and, veggies and then like a bag of brown rice you can heat in the microwave, something like that. You're getting all the protein you need, all the, vitamins and minerals and everything. Guaranteed. And then, for those who are just starting out, we didn't have this stuff 12 years ago when my wife and I were eating this way. Now we've got, all of these plant-based meats, which I call transitional foods. But then they're great. The texture is wonderful. If you buy these crispy tenders, which are supposed to be chicken, or crispy chicken, it's remarkable. It tastes like chicken, really. You haven't tried it, you gotta try it. Tofu, eat a lot of. Tofu is a very nutritious food. Bland tasting. Anything you put it in, though, picks up the flavor of whatever it's in. And it's very high in protein, plant-based protein. Dr. Michael Greger, I mentioned before, his daily dozen. This is the foods he recommends and the exercise every day. There's an app you can get go to your app store, you can get Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, and you can keep track. You can go in and keep track, check them off as you go throughout the day. This is what he recommends, the servings each day of each group. Pretty easy to do. So we're getting there. In 2009, 1% of Americans were vegan or vegetarian in the United States. Now it's climbed to over 10% combined. The rate has skyrocketed in the last 10 years and continues to rise. The number of vegetarians in the U.S. is growing by over 1 million a year. And it's estimated by year 2050, well, I probably won't be here, but America will be considered a vegan country by a large percentage. Interesting. Most important decision you make each day is what you like to put in your mouth. That's my opinion. It's very important. A lot of us don't. Most Americans, they don't think about what they're actually eating. But it's very important. So you don't have to eat less, you just have to eat right. You really don't. And you don't have to worry about calories. You just eat. Serious. Books. I'm going to put up a handout here in a minute. I didn't print them out, but you can use your phones and take a picture of it, of just a couple of the books, a couple of documentaries that I highly recommend. How to Not Die by Dr. Michael Greger is fantastic. Anybody read this? Yep. He's got 3 of them. He's got How to Not Die, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet. That was the second one. This is his latest, which I really highly recommend because it hits home with us. Okay? How Not to Age. Man, good stuff, really. And he's funny. Because little funny stuff. Here's the recommendation. If you want to take pictures of it. Websites, nutritionfacts.org. It's Dr. Michael Greger's site covering all health, dietary, and medical subjects based on the latest research site. You can go to this site. There's no advertisement. It's all done by donations, people donating, and you won't get, but you have to put your email address because he sends you the new ones that come out. And they come out, it's usually like every other day. And they're short, little, concise videos on all kinds of topics. And he's been doing this for like 10 years. And you can go in at the top and search for a topic like coronary disease, or how much protein do I need each day? And there'll be a video that he's done with it. And they're short. They're like, most of them are less than 5 minutes, but they're very concise. And he does an excellent job of presenting them. Forksoverknives.com, great site for plant-based information and a great recipe site. Great recipe site. Another thing you can do, I know, say you want a recipe for beef stroganoff, but you want to do a plant-based. You can go to, Google plant-based beef stroganoff, and it'll pull up tons of recipes for you. It's anything like that. Really good. Documentaries, Forks Over Knives. That's kind of the granddaddy that started it all off. Game Changers, if you haven't seen that one. Anybody seen Game Changers? Excellent. Especially for, the macho guys that say, oh, God, I gotta eat meat. Watch Game Changers. You'll see all the pro athletes that do this. Eating You Alive is the one that I was part of, which I'm proud of. Books, How Not to Age, How Not to Die. Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Undo It by Dr. Dean Ornish. Reverse Diabetes Now by Dr. Neil Bernard. I don't know if any of you have diabetes in here. I'm not going to have you raise your hand or anything. But this is an excellent book. I used to give this out to patients, Reverse Diabetes Now, because he goes into the explanation of what causes diabetes in the first place and how to reverse it, how to get rid of it. It's excellent. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Seriously, if you're, while you're talking to me here now, what meal or dessert do you dream of having to make your day complete? Because you're taking away ice cream and stuff like that. But I can try that, but what do you dream of?
They have plant-based ice cream now. Ben & Jerry's makes plant-based ice cream. I mean, you could put a bowl of regular and a bowl of that by side of you couldn't tell this. Really.
Like coconut ice cream or something like that?
Yeah, coconut, they make cashews, almond milk, but there's at least a dozen different brands now.
And what meal do you dream of having when you like to have? Like maybe spaghetti or something like that?
Oh, we have spaghetti almost every week, every 10 days. But we just, use, marinara sauce or spaghetti, and then we'll put either vegetables, or we'll do beans, or we'll do lentils, or one of the ground plant-based meat alternatives. I really can't tell the difference. Yeah. Same with chili and, soups and stuff. We do a lot of that, especially in the winter. We'll put soup on in the morning, and then we can have it later on. Freeze extra. Really easy to do. Yes?
Americans like quick fixes. We always like quick fixes. Going on a vegetarian diet, how long does it take? Because people get tired of it, and there are so many temptations out there. Really, what would you say as far as do it start for a month, 2 months, a year? Your life?
I think, a month, your taste buds are going to change in that month. And I think a month is a good starting point. And that was usually what I recommended to people. I said, try to do it for a month. And you can start out by doing, just like meatless Mondays or 1 day a week, and then just gradually evolve. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. We dove in head first and did it all at once, which a lot of people do. It worked for us, but there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You can, whatever works best for you. If that helps.
Everybody, I'm going to pass the mic around, so just raise your hand.
Will this help with anxiety?
Not working. Anxiety?
Will this help with anxiety?
It's possible it could. Because you'll get some changes in brain chemistry, and it might even help like with depression as well. You'll get, because a lot of the meats and the chemicals they put in them with the antibiotics and pesticides they get. There's been a few studies in that direction in the mental health fields dealing with anxiety and depression it does seem to help. I haven't had a lot of experience with that in that realm, but there's not too many things medically that it doesn't help. That's the neat thing about it. If you're treating one thing, say you want to lower your blood pressure, eating this way is going to get rid of, help the arthritis. My wife had bad arthritis when she started, and within a couple of weeks, it really brought down the pain and the stiffness and inflammation in her hands. It'll help everything. Things like kidney stones and gout is brought on. Those are strictly diet-related maladies that we bring on ourselves by eating foods that are too high in uric acid, and it can be greatly. It just helps a lot of things. Helps a lot. Yes.
You referenced plant-based meat substitutes. Is there anything in these substitutes, like for instance Impossible meat, that we should be aware of that might be harmful?
It's, those aren't, I don't consider them healthy. If you've made a steady diet of it, because they're made out of plants, but there's still some saturated fat in it because they put a lot of, additives and nothing animal-based, and you're still not getting all the pesticides and the hormones and things you get from meat, but still, it's not considered a health food. There's still there's saturated fats and things from those, just because of the ingredients that are in them. But it's still healthier than eating meat. Way back, no.
3 years ago, my husband had open heart surgery, and Dr. Watson, the cardiologist, said, I want you to go plant whole foods based. And I said to him, you have to do it 100% of the time. I'm the daughter of a meat packer, and I'm first generation Italian American. So we probably started off doing it 80% of the time. Maybe twice a year we have a really good piece of beef or something like that. But we went to see Dr. Watson recently. He was looking at Dick's blood work, and he said to us, you're one of the few people in Saddlebrook who's actually listening to me. So just keep doing what you're doing. And what I would say about the cooking for the ladies is I find that my cooking has to get more creative. So I'm probably cooking more ethnic food, Indian food, Chinese food, Mexican food. And it's not a hunk of protein and a vegetable. And we eat a lot of quinoa, which is high in protein. And I mix it with various things. We're going to have stuffed peppers tomorrow night that I'm going to use quinoa, a little bit of the fake ground beef, which we don't use every week, that kind of stuff, but maybe once a month.
Sure.
I have something. And I do buy the Impossible Burgers. We eat it maybe every 3 months. I buy a really good bowl from Dash's. I caramelize onions. I get lettuce and tomato. And when you're eating it, you think you're eating a burger. When we first started doing this, Dick looked at me and said, I'm still hungry. But then about 6 weeks later, he said, now I'm really getting into this. What you can do with sweet potatoes is amazing.
Awesome. Who's your cardiologist? Who was it?
Gordon Watson.
Gordon Watson.
And his surgeon, Dr. Butler, Teresa Butler, she also said to do this. And so once she got used to it, and we do go out to dinner occasionally, and we find stuff to eat. But he went up to HOA1 recently, met a new food and beverage person, and said, you have fried fish night, burger night, prime rib night, fried chicken night, and pizza. We don't eat there because there's nothing for us.
Yeah.
She said she'd work on it.
Yeah, tell Dr. Watson hi for me.
Good luck.
I taught him well. Right here, yes.
What about B12?
About what?
B12.
Oh, B12. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to eat this way strictly, one of the vitamins you have to take is B12. Okay, and it's easy to do. We take just a B complex that has all the B vitamins in, a few times a week. It doesn't take much. And you don't have to take it every single day. Okay, but it's easy to get. If that helps. Right, meat and dairy, yes, yeah.
People are aware of that because of the issue.
Right.
But aren't a lot of omnivores deficient in B12 as well?
A few. I didn't see a lot of them. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of them in my practice, but it's pretty rare to see it. Even in my plant-based people that weren't great on taking B12, I didn't see a lot of it, but I did see it. So, yes. Hey, I know you.
Yeah. You were my doctor, our doctor, and then you said, I'm done with you. That's not the question. Is there any documentation that there is a correlation between too low of cholesterol and dementia?
Not that I know of.
I've read it online a few times, I've talked to some pharmacists and so forth. They're saying no, but you see it online and you wonder, is there such a thing?
Not to my knowledge.
It was like a composite of 130 units.
not to my knowledge. You know, a lot of these places like Uganda where they rarely, I mean, their cholesterol is down in that area, so I don't think it's happening. Way back there.
I have just one comment to make, based on what you say about it's extremely high in saturated fat, with the leading causes of elevated coronary artery disease. So there are a lot of imposters out there in the food world. You might think we're actually vegetarian friendly or vegan friendly. If you read the print, you'll find palm oil, which is horrible. High saturated fat.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, like I